to Plasticville. Plasticville, as you've never seen, at least my setup before. Um, this year, I thought I'd start out the season with a series of videos where phase by phase I show you kind of the setup process. I thought that might be interesting to, who knows, some people. Um, but clearly this is the first stage, which is laying down the platform, which in my case is just a converted ping pong table, laying the train track. This year I've opted for a little bit less train track and a little bit more Plasticville City, which is kind of the focus of my layout. It's the thing that interests me the most. Although the trains, without the trains it would be nothing. But definitely the Plasticville City look is what I go for. And I put the trolley, I don't know if you can see it back there, on kind of an elevated train, if I can make that work properly. That's where it's going to be kind of out of the way and some in between two tracks, which is kind of wasted space anyway, where I can't really put anything up. So this is phase one, and then I would say just setting up all the buildings is also part of this phase. And then phase two would be kind of the streetscaping, landscaping, putting up trees, mailboxes, fire hydrants, the people. All of that is kind of phase two. Phase three would be kind of putting the lighting in all the buildings. I use puck lights with remote control to do my lighting, so it's not that big a deal. And then I guess the next stage would be, and the final stage would be adding the snow, and finally the vintage kind of brick crepe paper that I put around the platform. So I thought that maybe seeing some of these boxes might be interesting to some people. Who knows? Before Plasticville was Plasticville, this was the first piece that they made. It's a log cabin, and it doesn't say anywhere on it Plasticville. Plasticville was made, and I think it still is, made by Bachman Brothers, who back in the 50s and 60s were located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And this piece was just a log cabin, not necessarily for a train garden. And I don't usually put it up because it doesn't really fit with my city theme that I have going on. So it's just a piece that I have for historic reasons. But it apparently was very successful, and it gave them the idea to make a city for trains that were popular at the time. And the different kinds of boxes I think are interesting too. Like this is an older box, probably from the 50s, early 50s. This one is in really good shape. Not all of my old boxes are in this good a shape. This happens to be the 5 and 10 cent store, which we'll look at in a few seconds. Later, in the 60s, probably the early 60s, they came out with this style box, which has, just as in the old boxes, has the different kits that are available kind of all around the edge of the box. These boxes for me are very nostalgic because it's the kind we used to have when we were kids. I had to buy all this Plasticville back because our Plasticville was destroyed in a flood. But these are the boxes that I remember the most because these are the kinds that we have. I inherited all of my Plasticville from my older brother. He's about 15, 16, 17 years older than I am, so I consider them pretty old. Then later kind of switched to this kind of box. I believe this is a little bit later in the 60s probably. Hobo shack, and they put just a few assorted buildings around the edge. They still make Plasticville today, and the boxes look like this now. It's just a generic box, not a separate box for each different building kit, but just the same box for all of them, and then they have a picture and a label of what the structure is on the side. Kind of flimsy, not as nice. Made in, this one is still made apparently in the USA, although Plasticville today is made in China, and I think the plastic's flimsier, but that might just be my prejudices against stuff that are not made in the USA. If we look at, one thing that I want to do is show you how these buildings snap together, and this is a real easy building. This is the 5 and 10 cent store that I showed you earlier. It's just a really simple structure that, it has 4 different walls, and then the rooftop that goes on top. The window has some paper inserts that make it look like a real store. One thing that's interesting, not a lot of people notice in the 5 and 10 cent store, down here at the bottom of the window right there, you see that they sell Plasticville structures, which I think is really cool. This is probably the kind of store where we would have bought Plasticville back in the 50s and 60s in a maybe 5 and 10 cent store, maybe Woolworths or Kresge's or that kind of a place. So, they're grooved, the buildings are grooved, so they just kind of fit together really nicely. Some of the buildings are more complicated than this, just 4 walls. And it just takes a second to snap them together. 4 walls and a ceiling. And there's a lot of different buildings that use exactly the same design, and only the front part is different and maybe a different color for the roof. But if you look at them, the walls on the side and the back are exactly the same molds. You just change the color and the front of the building. So you can line those all up and make kind of a main shopping street, which they look really cool together. So generally that's the kind of thing that I do, is I make a main shopping street and then kind of a monumental street with the cathedral and the Plasticville Hall and all of those structures back there. The new star that I have this year is the Lionel Midtown Model train store that I think is really cool. It is not Plasticville, it's made by Lionel. And so I'm just kind of curious of how it's going to look and fit in with the Plasticville feel. Hopefully it will be okay. So that's phase 1. I'll check in again. Today is Friday. It's October 20th. And hopefully by sometime tomorrow or Sunday, I'll be beginning phase 2 if things go right. By the end of the month, by Halloween, I hope to be pretty much finished with the setup and just ready to get into our season. So we'll see how it goes, see if I can keep up to that schedule. I hope so, but if not, it's okay, we're flexible. We're starting real early. This platform was put up last weekend, so got an early start, so I, not behind, not feeling pressured. So I'll check in again, and you stop back. Thank you.